To start, I just would like to talk a little bit about how we book club, how we do this speedy book club. We used to do it in the Guanghwa Bookshop, and now we do it online. Our first story today is called Good Kids, Bad Kids from Huang Beijia's I Want to Be Good. So let me just give a little bit of an introduction of our special guest of tonight, because we are very honored to announce actually the author of I Want to Be Good, this book. The author of I Want to Be Good, Huang Beijia, is also here with us. Huang Beijia was born in Rugao, Jiangsu province. She began writing full-time in 1984, long time ago, joining the Jiangsu Writers Association. Her stories for children include Boat, Small Boat, A Song for Mother, When Reed Catkins Are Flying, and The Sea Far Away. 2 children's TV films have been adapted from her novels and won international awards. And several of her novels have been translated into other languages. She has won a number of children's literature awards and was nominated for the Hans Christian Andersen Award 2020. Her new novel, The Pacific, the Atlantic, 太平洋, 大西洋, has just been published in China in March 2021. And also who will be talking about this book is Nicky Harman, our old friend. And Nicky Harman is a very prolific translator and a trustee of Paper Republic. She was also co-chair of the Translator Association between 2014 and 2017. Her most recent translation works include I Want to Be Good by Huang Beijia, Broken Wings by Jia Pinghua, White Horse by Yan Ge, and Our Stories by Rao Pingru. Thank you, Beijia and Nicky, for coming. Nicky, would you like to tell us a little bit about why you how you encountered this book, how you get to start to translate this book, and why you chose this excerpt to share with everyone?
Yes, first of all, a huge thank you to Huang Laoshi for writing such a lovely book. I'm going to hold up the Indian edition. So it should be available in the UK next month with a different cover, but exactly the same translation. But this has come out in India. Second big thanks to Helen Wang, who's here, who introduced me to Huang Beijia's work, and actually we had quite nice conversations at the beginning, because this was the first time that I translated a children's book for young readers, and I was kind of learning in the process. I've always done adult fiction before. Anyway, so Helen and I had lots of conversations about it, and that helped me a lot, gave me confidence. So that was how the book, and of course the book came to me through Wu Xiaohong, who is also here, and for which I'm extremely grateful. She had confidence in me, and we've all worked together pretty well. What do I like about it? What were the translation challenges? The big challenge in translating for children is that children are unforgiving readers. If they don't like the first paragraph or the first page, they're not going to go on. So that was something that Helen and I discussed together. So you really have to get the right tone right from the start. And once I started translating, I just loved it. I mean, I love all the characters. I love Ling, the heroine. I particularly loved her mother. I thought her mother was a great portrait of a woman who is not a tiger mother, absolutely not, but she really wants the best for her child. And who had ambitions of her own and is probably quite frustrated in the sense that she hoped she was going to have her own career, but the father has gone off to have his career. So there's quite a lot going on under the surface. And of course, Ling, it's not just a book about the fact that Ling is hopeless at maths. She may want to be good at maths, but she's really bad at it. It's not just a book about that. She has all sorts of adventures. She has secrets. She learns how to grow up. So it's a book which has many different sides, quite apart from the fact that the basic story is about her and her friends getting to the point where they're going to go on from primary school to middle school. There's lots of other things going on as well. I think that's enough from me for the moment.
Sure. Actually, when I saw the title of this book, I Want to Be Good, and also especially the excerpt Nicky chose, Good Kids, Bad Kids. I was very curious. What is considered a good kid? And I believe in China and in the UK, we have different. The society may have similar or different answers. So I would like to ask Huang Laoshi, I would like to know what is your motive or the source of inspiration for writing this book? I Want to Be Good. And in your mind, what is considered a good kid? What kind of a message about being good kid are you trying to deliver to your readers?
这本书是我25年前写的，书的原型其实就是我自己的女儿，就是书里的这个主人公精灵，有我和女儿的很多的生活的影子在里面。
So I wrote this book 25 years ago. This is actually I took the idea of the protagonist. Sorry, I took the idea of the main character from the image of my daughter.
你看这本书的这个中文的封面是这样的，一个小女孩背着一个沉重的书包，然后前面抱着很多很多的书。这个其实从封面上你可以看到。这个就是书里我要写的主要的这个生活的场景，也是中国的孩子很现实的一种生活的状况。
So as you can see from the Chinese book's cover, it shows a kid with a very heavy school bag and holding lots of books in front of her. And as you can probably tell from the image, that this is something I was actually trying. This is a phenomenon in China that I was trying to write. And this is actually a realistic thing that is happening in Chinese society.
20多年前，我的女儿正好是小学毕业，考中学的时候。中国的在中国，孩子们是要通过极力的竞争考试，才能够踏入更高一级的学校的。
So more than 20 years ago, as I wrote this book, my daughter was just about to graduate from primary school and going into the secondary. And in China, everyone had to go through these kind of competitive exams to go into a good school.
每天回家。孩子回家都要做很多的作业，模拟很多的试卷，然后每天学校老师还要在卷子上给孩子排名次，从第1名一直排到最后1名。
Every day the girl comes back with a lot of homework, a lot of mock tests, and for each mock test they have to be ranked.
然后我的很多朋友就鼓励我说你应该把这样的事情写出来，然后我就写了这一本我要做好孩子。
So it was really hard for me, hard for my daughter, and after the exam finished, I spoke to my friends about what we went through, and the friends encouraged me to write a book about it, and so here it is. Here is the book.
我写了很多很多的儿童文学。但是这一本我要做好孩子是我所有的作品当中最受欢迎的一本，孩子喜欢，家长也喜欢，老师也喜欢。
I wrote a lot of children's books in my life, but this one is undoubtedly the most popular one, as liked by both kids and the parents and the teachers.
20多年过去了，这本书仍然是我所有的书中销量最好的一本，而且它翻译成了全世界各个国家的很多的文字，像法文、德文、俄文， 还有朝鲜、越南、阿拉伯文字，很多国家的文字，可见这个孩子的教育问题是一个全世界的一个共性的问题，所有的家长都有这样的烦恼。
20 years on, the book is still one of my bestsellers and has been translated into many languages such as French, German, Korean, Vietnamese. That just shows that children's education is such a common issue in all these countries, in all the countries. Yeah. What kind of kid is considered a good kid in Chinese society?
这么多年过去了啊，为什么我的这本书仍然是非常受孩子们欢迎，非常受读者的欢迎？因为我觉得我们中国的这个教育现状，这么多年没有发生大的变化，所有的学校还是在评价一个孩子的时候，仍然是以他的学习成绩为第一要素的。
So sadly, so many years have passed since I wrote the book. The Chinese society hasn't changed much. The schools are still judging their kids whether they are good or not by their academic performance only.
一个孩子如果他的学习成绩不好，那么无论他其他的品质有多么优秀，他在老师的眼睛里面，他就不是一个好孩子。
If the kid doesn't perform well academically, no matter how well she, what other merits he or she may have, they're still not considered a good kid in China.
应该说，中国的孩子是全中国所有人群当中痛苦指数最高的一群人。几乎从开始上幼儿园开始吧，从3岁开始上幼儿园的小班开始，这个战争就开始打响了，这个教育的战争。所有的家长，集爷爷奶奶、外公外婆全家所有人的力量，就为了培养这个孩子，把所有的精力、所有的时间、所有的金钱，全部投入在培养孩子这件事情上。
If there was a pain index existing in this world, then I would say the Chinese children would have the highest pain suffering index in the world, because when they go to kindergarten at, they say, 3 years old, they start the war for competing, and the war of the education has already started for them, and the whole family would plunge all their resources in, including money, time, energy, everything.
如果家里有一个上学的读书的孩子，那么这个阴影就一直笼罩在这个家庭当中。所有的父母他是不能够享受自己的自由，不能享受生活的快乐的。如果他想去享受，那就是有一种罪恶的感觉。
If you have a kid who's going to school, at the moment in China, it's almost like there's a shadow casting over your lives, that you can't really, as parents, you can't really go on enjoying your own lives, because if you do that, you feel guilty. You feel that you haven't put everything in for your life, for your child.
在我的女儿小的时候，好像情况还没有现在这么糟糕。我觉得这个20多年当中啊，这个升学的这个战争好像越演越烈，孩子负担越来越重，好像家长我觉得永远都没有一个出头之日一样。
Actually, 20 years ago, when I wrote the book, I didn't feel things were quite as bad as now. It is now. Now, 2 decades had passed. It's actually, the war is actually getting worse and worse, and the pressure on the parents are getting more severe.
You asked me why I chose chapter 5.
Yes.
And actually, it really relates to what Huang Laoshi was saying. It deals with the different meanings of good. And Ling, in the end, she says she wants to be good. And there's a nice ambiguity about it, because a lot of issues are dealt with in that chapter. Courage, her personal courage, her being bullied, treated quite badly by children who are very good at their work, but not terribly good in their characters. So there's a lot going on, and she does something quite brave that her mother admires her for. And so that chapter in particular is fun and lively, but also raises quite a lot of questions.
Do you feel that you have the same, we have the same issues here in the UK?
It's always stressful putting your children through school, but there isn't the same kind of stress.
Okay.
If anything, it's stressful because there's not enough homework.
Really?
I mean, my kids are now like quite old, 35, 40.
Right.
So I can't say how things have changed. And also they went to state schools, and the private school system, state school system is very different.
Mm-hmm.
But they did also go to Pasture. They went to after school classes, which were really language classes. The whole thing is deeply stressful.
Mm-hmm.
Much more for the parents than it is for the children.
So, Nicky, when you translated the book, was there any sort of challenges that you encountered?
Absolutely the main thing was to make sure that Ling had her voice. The Huang Beijia's portrayal of Ling and the mother, because I think the mother is very important, also came over. So these are kind of general rather than technical translation issues.
Was there anything culturally different in the Chinese original and your translation that you're thinking maybe that can be a little bit hard for the kid here to perceive?
I think that young readers are just the same as grown-up readers. They can take on a certain amount of foreignness so long as it's a good story, which is well told.
中国和国外和英国这个评判孩子，成功和不成功的标准，我想应该是不太一样的。因为中国人评判一个孩子成功的标准，就是如果他在国外读书，他又必须要读哈佛、读耶鲁、读剑桥、读牛津。除此之外，他要读的再低，就是再低一点的学校，那就是失败。那么在中国的孩子，就是你必须要考上北大、考上清华，那才是成功。如果你哪怕考上的是，比如说复旦大学、武汉大学、南京大学，都不能算是一个成功的孩子。这个评判的标准就是非常的两极，没有中间状态。
So Huang Laoshi just added that she still felt, in her understanding, that she still felt there is a significant difference in how parents judge their kids in China and in the West. And she felt in the West that even if the kid is not going to Oxbridge, the parents still think their kid has like a lot of potentials, but in China, like if you don't make it to Beijing University or Tsinghua University, which is equivalent to Oxbridge, then you are considered not quite successful. So in China, they really plunge all their resources and put all their hope on the child, which is, she thinks, is quite different from what it is in the UK society. So thank you so much for sharing with us, and we would like to, we really look forward to the publication of this book, and I would like to extend my thanks to the publisher, 江苏少儿出版社吴晓红女士 as well, so for your support for this event. Thank you so much. So let's move on to the second story. This chapter is from the newly published Winter Pasture. That Jack and Yan Yan translated together. And Jack, can you tell us what you think about this book? Why you chose this excerpt to share with us today?
I guess I'll introduce the author really quickly and then get into the rest of the things. So Li Juan is a Han Chinese author who lives in, as Vivian said, the northwest of China in Xinjiang province. She has lived there most of her life. I can't quite remember actually if she was born there, but she's lived there most of her life. And a lot of her books, she's quite prolific actually. I'm not quite sure how many books she has out, but it's a lot, are based around her life in Xinjiang, different facets of that life. For example, Sinoist Books just released there we go. Vivian has it at the ready. A book called Distant Sunflowers, which is also by Li Juan, which definitely deals with a different side of her life in Xinjiang, and is a really interesting look at, a different time of year and a different kind of experience to what Li Juan experiences throughout Winter Pasture. I mean, it says it all in the two names of the books, really, doesn't it? There's Winter Pasture and Distant Sunflower Fields. The sunflowers, there's winter. So it's quite fortunate that in the same year, these two books have come out and they've given two very different sides of her story in Xinjiang and the story of Xinjiang itself, as well as the people who live there. So Winter Pasture is about her time living with a family there, two families technically, because they have neighbors. And there's a whole cast of characters in this book whom she lives with. Some of the chapters are dedicated specifically to individual characters. Some are dedicated specifically to they are still individual characters, but the animals that they live with while they're out in the fields, out in the pastures, sorry. And the reason I chose this particular chapter is because while there are some chapters that kind of get into the nitty-gritty of one particular event that happens while she's there over one winter, this chapter, What I'm Experiencing, or 我在体验什么, really gives an oversight of a lot of her experiences. It comes towards the end of the book, and it's almost broken down into these tiny little, like, I guess you could call them almost flash fiction pieces, these little snippets of her life throughout the time she spends there. They're like little vignettes. And because of that, you get to meet in this chapter a lot of the characters that she lives with, and get little tasters of how they interact with each other. While in this chapter, she is complaining that she never has her notebook at the right time. She's never taking pictures at the right time. She doesn't want to disturb them with flash. While she's complaining about all of these things, she's telling these really beautiful, intimate stories about these people's lives. And so I think this chapter really encapsulates a lot of the essence of the book in that specific, to and fro of Li Juan's own self-deprecating nature, and really just how well she's managed to identify universally human experiences as well as culturally specific experiences.
I really liked your translation, and you told me that you think the challenges of translating Li Juan was the atmosphere and the voice. You mentioned that to me. You want to tell us a little bit about these challenges?
I mean, Li Juan's got a really recognizable voice, a very characteristic voice. In order to capture that, I mean, it echoes a little bit what Nicky said. Yan Yan lives in the States and writes American English. American English comes more naturally to him. British English comes more naturally to me. And I did the initial translation of the book, and then Yan Yan and I went back and forth and discussed how to make it suitable for an American market, it being an American publisher, and how also to capture her voice in a way that wasn't jarring. And that's not because her voice is jarring in any way, but there are certain things within the book that English audiences might not be used to. And so we've kept a good amount of that foreignness, but there are certain parts where we adjusted and adapted it a little bit to suit English readers. The last thing, I suppose, is the Kazakh that Li Juan includes. So I don't speak Kazakh, unfortunately, and nor does Yan Yan. So to do that, we had to get the help of, I found a translator called Altenbeck Gula, who reads Kazakh and Chinese and English, and he was able to transliterate a lot of the, so render a lot of the Chinese versions of Kazakh into English, into the Roman alphabet for us to include and research ourselves. But the nice thing is about Li Juan's style, besides all of the other things I mentioned, her humor, her tenderness, her obvious, quite lively character in terms of her writing, even though she's quite shy herself.
Thank you so much, Jack. And so we look forward to your future work. And now we move on to the next story, a short article. This article is very appropriate for the time because we are in this pandemic. This article's author is here. Ai Lao Shi is a very famous Chinese author and especially known for his crime fictions, and his translated works include Perfect Crime. So Emily, you didn't translate Ai's piece, but you are an expert in translating crime fictions. I know. I loved your work for Black Holes, written by another famous Chinese author, He Jiahuang. I wonder why you choose this specific article for our book club.
And when COVID started and the epidemic started, we wanted to talk about the different responses to the pandemic that were coming out of China. And so we asked various people in China writing today to help us. And Ai very, very kindly wrote a fantastic short essay. From my perspective as a reader, it's a hugely personal response to COVID and to the pandemic, but it's like a message from the future, because of the way the pandemic unfolded first in China and then came to the rest of the world later. One of the things that I feel when reading his essay is, he talks a lot about stigma among people, around communities, the fear, the anxieties, the paranoia of people and the different responses that we have. And I feel like I can see that playing out now.
When Paper Republic invited you to write this short article for the epidemic series, why did you choose to write this and deliver such a message?
因为这是一个我觉得它是一个降临的东西。谁也不知道它是什么东西，很像那个科幻里头突然在某个地方出现了一块外星的东西，所有人都不知道怎么应对。
This article was written last year, and obviously the pandemic has stricken us unexpected, and when the Paper Republic told me to write a short article for their epidemic series, I felt at the time that we didn't know where it was going and what was going to happen. It's just almost like an alien striking us from another planet in the science fiction. We just didn't know what was going on and where it was going.
我当时写的就是人在这个应急状态下，还有社会和在这个应急状态下，它会产生什么反应？所以这个基本情况就是我当时我这样写的。但是呢，我现在1年过去了1年多过去了，这个疫情慢慢的它就在缓解，然后我觉得我还是应该现在有更多的认识。就是说，人没有那么想象的那么。
So Ai Lao said, at the time when a pandemic happened, everyone was kind of in a state of emergency. Now a year has passed, the pandemic has relieved. I started to have a new realization. I started to see things differently. People may not have been actually as selfless as selfish as I thought.
因为现在有2年了，我就可以看出来 整个事态就非常像法国作家阿尔贝·加缪写的那个小说《鼠疫》，他基本上这部小说他就好像预言了这场疫情中人的表现，就是人在最开始的时候不知道这个事物是什么的时候，会陷入恐慌，会有一些自私的表现，但是随着长期和他斗争，人的人道主义精神和身上伟大的东西，它就会呈现出来。这个和那个小说的节奏是一样的，就是时间，它和这个疫情斗争的时间越长，人的人道主义精神是体现的更充分。所以人是通过这个疫情是取得了巨大的进步。
So now, like 2 years have passed, and I started to see things more clearly. I felt this health pandemic was almost like what happened in Albert Camus' novel, The Plague. The novel was almost a prediction of what is happening now. We like at the beginning when it just struck us, we panicked and we showed our selfishness. But as things go on, as we battled with against the pandemic, the great things and the humanitarian and the spirit in us started to show, and through this process, we actually achieve great progress.
所以到最后，到现在，我觉得还是应该充分相信人，充分信赖人民。谢谢，我就说这么，
谢谢，非常感谢阿姨老师。So he said, for now, I will again put my trust in people. Have trust again in the people. Emily, what's your response? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Renewed reflections, and I would just say, in the essay, it's not all bad. He does also talk about the decency, the public service of so many people that, again, we've all seen in all of our countries. So he mentioned doctors and nurses and delivery drivers and shop owners, and so I think there is hope in the essay as well as criticism. So I think it is beautifully balanced.
The English title is A Message Held to the Flame, right? A message held to the flame.
That's right.
Why is there such a change?
So I should re-emphasize that this essay was not translated by me, but was translated by Dylan Levi King, who is a translator and author who lives in Japan and is a great friend of Paper Republic, and has worked on books by Dongqi and Guanghwa, amongst others. I was chatting to him about the essay a few days ago, and in particular the title. And in the essay, those of you who've read it, you'll note there's a reference to the Ballad of the Sad Cafe by Parson McCullers. And IE talks about how the epidemic is like a piece of paper, a strip of litmus paper. You hold up to the fire, to the flame, and it reveals to him what has been hidden in the hearts of the people around him. So for Dylan, he really felt strongly that the Carson McCullers piece, the analogy, was sort of really talking to one of the key messages in IE's essay. And so that idea of the message held to the flame, which is lifted from Carson McCullers' words, her own words, felt like just a brilliant title that just lent itself to English.
Yeah, I think it was brilliant as well. And I also liked another metaphor Ai Lao Shi used in his article, which is he calls the pandemic hitting us. It's like we're in the game of the werewolf. So like some people may be innocent villagers, some people may be werewolf, but you don't know who is and when they're gonna attack us. So it's a kind of that kind of panic feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. You could get that feeling of the anxiety, the paranoia, the fear that, you know, of the fear of the unknown that you all get. You really feel it quite viscerally in you when you read the essay. And I think that comes across beautifully in the way Dylan translated it, just as it did in the Chinese.
So thank you so much, Emily, for sharing with us. Thank you so much, so much for everyone for coming and for your questions and for your responses. If you have any questions, do give us an email or contact the Guanghwa Bookshop afterwards.